Awesome. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. A really pleasure to be on the innovation stage. Actually, this stage was missing ever since the first xDay, and it's a personal mission here to make this happen and also have the meaningful discussion around what and how can we improve the technology, what we're building every day. So, pleasure to have you here. Also, I'm here with Robert, Adrian, from core team, from the protocol team from MultiversX. Robert, Adrian, please come to the stage. Also, amazing. Also, pleasure also having Alina from Everstake. Everstake, maybe just, welcome Alina. Also, maybe just a very brief context. Everstake have been pre-Genesis with us, have helped us bootstrap the network, and also very helpful contributing to the protocol. And next but not least, Eddie from ValidBlocks. Eddie, please. Sure, I think, let's take a seat. Maybe also very brief context about Eddie as well. Eddie has been helping us keeping the validator community in place for quite some time. There has been many challenges, especially when it comes to economics and governance of the protocol. And I think that's also part of why we're here. As Mihai was saying, the next protocol, major protocol release, or after the current one, which is the pipeline, the next major one is staking phase 4, which tackles explicitly the economics of staking module, which has been already several times upgraded through the last couple of years. With that in mind, maybe I will introduce and define very briefly about the context and why we are doing this. The current state of the staking 3.5 is perhaps has helped us bootstrap the network such that we reached around 67% of the total circulating supply being staked inside the protocol. That, in simple words, that means 67% of the total e-gold that exists is locked inside the protocol and securing the network as we speak. Then, secondly, also through this kind of program, the staking module helps onboard new partners that provide infrastructure and are being the block producers of every round inside the chain. What does that mean? The security of the network is also very reliant on the quality of the staking provider that we build. With also through this kind of module, maybe one of the challenges was how do we keep all those staking providers happy with us, and especially being aligned with the missions of the protocol. While doing so, ever since Genesis, we've found out that actually the current implementation have reached its limits. It has been served very well to the overall health of the network over I think, more than 3 years. But right now, we are facing some sort of challenges on how can we onboard new staking providers, new infrastructure providers, like we've seen on the main stage with Deutsche Telekom and other partners. How can we easily, exactly. There's still a challenge even for us. How can we bring all those partners without going through the queue, without the waiting lines inside and being active inside the network? And maybe, I'm sure maybe Adrian or Robert, if you want to describe briefly about the specific of the current version before going into the next version.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so just wanted to add that since the beginning, when we launched the mainnet, staking phase 4, which we are proposing in the Vega release, was always the target. And we released it in stages. Initially, for the bootstrap of the network, we had to have a completely different setting. And it worked very well at that point. And then we came up with the upgrades you've seen with staking phase 2, which I think increased the validator number from the initial, I think, 1,922 more, 2,169, or no, that was the original number. Yeah, I forget. So the initial model was really static, what we started the mainnet with, and it was not possible to leave the network. So this was the first change. We allowed people to get out of the network if they so wished. Of course, nobody wanted to leave. They wanted to join. And we had several stages where we tried to decentralize this and make it more available for new staking providers to join or to create new nodes. But as I mentioned, this was always our goal, the goal to remove any barriers for new validators joining the ecosystem, and doing so while keeping the decentralization was also important. And this is why we designed the solution as it is now. And now I will get to the actual design, just a very, very high overview. How it transitions from the current setting where you need to wait a lot in the queue and you have no way of knowing exactly when you will be able to start validating the chain and earning rewards. This was the main problem that Lucian mentioned. So for this, there were discussions since the beginning, and it was announced since way long ago, that we will remove the waiting list, and it will be a sort of soft auction. And I think for the soft auction, Robert will give details on how it works.
All right, thank you, Ivan. I think it works. Yes, it was super important to eliminate whatever the queue was, and because we saw that nobody wants to leave, everybody wants to join, which is great, but we want to have like an open economy, and in an open economy to reward or keep all those nodes which are, let's say, the best. But we wanted to, if we think about too easy about what is the best, it starts to become too hard for the validators to manage their nodes. You would have to do all sorts of things, be constantly online to verify whether in this auction I can enter, in the next auction I can enter or not. And we wanted everything to be streamlined or automatized for the validators, and the validators to be an easy job for the validators to keep their nodes, validate, and then build other products, because they shouldn't just stay on like where I stake, where I put my nodes or stuff like that. So that's why we introduced the soft auction, which means that it's actually soft because we created an auction list, and from the auction list we select the 400 best nodes according to general top-up per staking provider into the waiting list. Once you get into the waiting list, you wait a few days, and after that you work a few days when you are on the eligible, and only when you get out from the eligible nodes and you get again into the auction, that's when the actual selection happens. This also makes it simple for meta-chain nodes to do all kinds of the auction service, and they can do it in terms of milliseconds, so in one round we don't have to do complex off-chain computations. And it also helps validators to manage their nodes, as it's not per node based, but it's per staking provider top-up per node base. So especially the staking providers have to check or be close to the medium of top-up per node of the ecosystem, and they will be fine. They will gain the most of the rewards they can from the ecosystem. That's how rewards V2 works as well. And then it's like streamlined for everybody else.
Amazing. Maybe to give some context and zoom out from the specifics. Again, a proof of stake network or proof of stake algorithm has its goal to achieve the maximum or accumulate the maximum stake possible into the network. What does it mean? It makes it more robust because less tokens are in circulation in the market. Maybe, again, zooming out and looking at the current version versus the new version, the current version keeps part of the validators inside the protocol into a safe place where they cannot be replaced with even other validators that are willing to put more stake and lock more coins inside the protocol. Maybe that's also a very, very high level overview or change with respect to that. Maybe another even very high level problem would be to define how do we even the rewards distribution around the protocol? How do we make an even more fair distribution and fair game for all the participants, regardless at what time they have joined the network? If they were sooner or later, such that everybody has the same chances, such that also the newcomers will still benefit from the same APRs or the same returns of investments on whatever they have been accumulating or interacting with. I'm curious, maybe before going into Adrian.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. This was also one of our goals, and it related with your what you mentioned before about rewards. One of our goals was to keep the change as small as possible in what it means for validators that have enough top-up. So basically what we wanted to do is not change anything for the validators that have enough stake, but then still allow new validators to join. So this was the base idea behind the design of staking phase 4.
Definitely. Maybe I'm curious, looking from Genesis, since Genesis, curious first, Alina, maybe how do you see it? How do you see the MultiversX ecosystem evolving, especially being part and close from Genesis and seeing everything from inside? How do you feel about the new proposal or the challenges where we are and then going forward with the new solution?
Actually, yeah, it's working, okay.
Amazing.
Actually, the staking phase 4, it was the thing that when we only started validation and the validator operation of the multiverse at that time, Alrond, and I was thinking, yeah, we'll get the staking phase 4, but it is I understand that to distribute the network that you already have, it's kind of a task, not an impossible task, there's nothing impossible, but a very important and hard task. As we live in the blockchain and crypto world, and we have the decentralization as the description, a one-word description of our Web3 world, it is of utmost importance to strive to find new validators, new ecosystem members. We cannot operate the network when we have Everstake only and some other only validators. From the business side, okay, but for the ecosystem, it is the grave bit for the blockchain when we have 10 validators and only insiders can rule it, and it is not the blockchain, it is not the decentralization. So I see this staking phase 4 as the new milestone and a new step into to being open to the other crypto community, because we have our MultiversX community, but we need to onboard new people from the general blockchain and crypto community. And this is the path, this is the option how we can do this, and onboard other validators, smaller, bigger, but they also have the community, their community, which who are staking with them in other networks, and they can bring these people to our ecosystem also. And this is the great thing, it is the how actually things should be.
100% agreed. Also, maybe some context, also some metrics regarding the protocol. There are more than around 150,000 unique delegators as we speak, interacting and using the staking module on the chain. That's, I think, a pretty decent number distribution when it comes to the engagement. And that's how serious that we take things when it comes to the economics of the protocol. I'll let Eddie maybe share some thoughts, and then...
Yeah, first of all, very happy to see familiar faces here, because I only see the 5 faces on the screen. The lights are blinding us, so I don't see anybody in the room. But I trust that there are some people with us in the room today, so that's good. When you say staking, you know, it can be a boring subject, and maybe because we don't fully understand it. And to me, personally, staking is such understood concept, where you can have your assets, your own assets, and you use a smart contract to stake them, and you are always in control of your own funds. This is so dramatically different than anything else in the world, where any kind of deposit requires you to lose custody of your own funds. And staking is just a brutal way to make more from your assets and still keep them in control. So that is what led me into this world of being a staking provider. So Lucian was asking about the evolution from Genesis to now. When we look in the past, you know, I would make a very simple comparison. Probably most of you or all of you already know Tesla, right? It's a brand that makes electric cars. And if you have a chance to look at their history, they did not start with Model X or Model 3, where they say when they sell millions of cars. They could not do that. So they started with a very premium sports supercar, and they started with a few influencers, or there were a few people that helped the project, and they raised awareness. And after that, they made Model S, which was a bit more affordable car, but still a limited number of cars. And when they got the adoption and they got all the factories, the gigafactories working, now they're building Model 3, and they're shipping millions. And Cybertruck is going to be just a bomb. I personally want one. If anyone wants to give me a present, that's a good present for my birthday. So looking at MultiversX, they started with the first staking phase with the Rust smart contract, right? And of course, you could not have had a lot of staking providers on the blockchain back then, because who knew about Elrond? Elrond was a small blockchain from a small country in Europe, from a small city in Romania, Sibiu. Where are these guys from? What are they doing? Come on. Well, they should be in Silicon Valley. Yet, they proved time and time again that by ambition and by working hard, you know, things can develop. And just like Tesla, staking phase 2 came along, then staking phase 3, then staking phase 3.5. And all these milestones, of course, led to staking phase 4. And my key takeaways from staking phase 4 is the power to enter into the elected validators does no longer go through a queue. This is mind-blowing, and is going to be such a great feat for the chain. I'm sure many chains will come, many new providers, will come, and we will see this sector flourish. And also stake and nodes, number of nodes will not be as important when it comes to API, right? Because to be honest, most of the delegators are looking at API. Hey, how much do I make if I stake with you? So having that, depending on the number of nodes for the first validators that we had the chance to be here in the beginning, was nice for a while. But to open this for everybody, I think this is the next logical step. And with a multi-key feature that I'm sure many of you that are validators know about, managing these would be a breeze, and I see a very bright future for staking providers on MultiversX.
Definitely, definitely. Maybe to iterate on not only the multi-key, but to the earlier discussion from the main stage today, there were 2 or 3 different cloud providers, tier 1, that announced that we're launching one-click node deployment for observer for the API nodes, and not only, also for validator nodes on them. So our mission is not only to simplify and improve the life or the experience of the delegators, but also the economics and the parameters of the protocol, but also the life of the validators. I'm wondering, maybe, I'm not sure if Eddie asked earlier today, are there any staking providers in the room with us right now? Amazing, quite a few. So maybe also very specific to get to the history of 3.5 or some stuff that have happened in the background that have not been shared until now. We, as Adrian mentioned, the auction version has been, I think, for years in the discussion, but always got delayed for the principle that we always cared so much about the active set of validators that we didn't want to disappoint in any way. And always the point where we thought that it would be optimum to change would be when e-gold is around, so you put a number, enough that you can benefit from the rewards, not criticizing us from taking and making it less fair for the early joiners. But here we are, regardless of how the market plays out, it seems like we cannot play with the feelings and everything and make it even for and happy everybody, regardless of the circumstances. We need to move forward and take the decision that it is for the greater good to onboard more validators, more staking providers, and make the pie bigger instead of conquering our slice for ourselves bigger. With that in mind, maybe this is some inside notes that have never been shared, maybe why it got delayed so much, because we really literally cared about the current validators, and I hope they really had a good journey with us until now. And also moving forward, they will be a very good experience and example for the new validators that will come. I think especially Eddie, I thank Eddie for that, and also Alina is doing very well helping us. Eddie, especially working with the new staking providers that are coming into the ecosystem. I'm closely adding Eddie to most of the discussion, giving and sharing his example from how he's running the entire operations around valid blocks. And also Alina, especially with, they are part of several other protocols such as Wormhole. There has been many discussion around that for such a long time on onboarding, tackling the discussion, opening the doors for bringing even more players, even more relevant participants. Maybe getting back to the specifics, I think we still have some time. Just want to confirm that the panel is 40 minutes, right? I guess, yeah. So I think so. I have not looked at it. Yeah, cool. Maybe going back to the specifics of the implementation of staking phase 4. Maybe if you want Robert to go, or Adrian, one of you, if you want to go onto more details, what are part of the changes that are proposed for the next governance? And how maybe also give the context that the next, starting with the next, just reminding everybody with the governance part first, and then getting to...
Yeah, so we got a lot of feedback from the community that they want more involvement in whatever decision we make towards how we improve the protocol. And here we are, first governance call for Sirius. And afterwards, the next governance call for the Vega release, which has staking phase 4. So the specifics of the changes, we've also announced during the validator calls. We had several of them where we presented the solution and we had discussions with the current validators. And I was impressed by how accepting they were for our proposal. Of course, at first, I think there were some misunderstandings, which we clarified, and I was glad to see that many of them had the same ideas that we had in how we can improve, how we can make it more decentralized, how we can have more inclusion for new staking providers joining. So in regards to the technical aspects, the configuration of the new staking phase 4 is that basically for whoever has enough top up, nothing changes. But otherwise, we have removed from the queue, if for example, right now we have two lists. We have the eligible list, which in the current epoch is the list where nodes get selected to form a consensus and then vote on the blocks and get rewards during that epoch. And then we have a waiting list, where we again have 400 validators for each of the shards. So this I'm mentioning on from the one shard perspective. So we have again another 400 which are waiting, because we needed some predictability on when you need to get to validate, in case, for example, validators want to upgrade their systems. They have some time to do all the upgrades without being affected by reduced rating, for example. So this has always been our design since day one. Ensure some predictability on when you get to validate blocks. This does not change. What changes is, since those 400 nodes in the waiting list, they got to enter the eligible list in queues, like in bulks of 80 nodes. So you had a 5-day beforehand notice that you will be validating afterwards. What has changed is that we have removed 1 day from this waiting list. You just need to wait there 4 days. And then you spend another day in the auction list. So from higher level perspective, nothing changes. You still have to wait 5 days whenever you get shuffled out. And then you will enter the system and have predictability that you will start your validation process. Now, in regards with some other constraints, we have added to the system, and of course these are still under discussions and we need to decide if it's the best way forward, is about how do we make it more decentralized, how do we enforce things like a cap of nodes per staking provider. And we have one option already implemented. Of course, there have been other suggestions which we need to discuss further, but currently the proposal is like this. We would add a cap of nodes, number of nodes, which does not mean that if you already are above that cap, you will get your nodes thrown out of the system. So you still continue as now. It is just a barrier for you to register new nodes. So if you, for example, deregistered some nodes, or the system itself deregistered some nodes, then if you are above the mentioned threshold, then you will not be able to get back with those nodes. Of course, as I mentioned, there are other suggestions here, and I would be curious to discuss them further, of course. But if I'm missing something which you think it's relevant, I think Robert can also add.
All right. In these kinds of limitations, we are thinking about 1% of the needed nodes, so 1% of the 3,200. That actually means 32 nodes. We might discuss about staking limit, like number of total stake in total per account, per staking providers as well. We know that this is some kind of limitations put, which might be played by the validators or by the system, but decentralization is a job of every one of us and every one of you to keep to these kinds of standards. And like here, I just want to speak to all the validators who are here that as much the Nakamoto coefficient is better, the better the system is viewed, and the better the system is in perspective of decentralization, and it's better for any worldwide event which might or might not happen. So these kinds of limitations, we will talk a lot in the upcoming weeks about this, but are super important in order to decentralize the network. We couldn't do it at first because there were not enough good, knowledgeable staking providers who can offer these kinds of services. And we have systematically broken down the barrier of entry. As first, there was no in, no out. After that, we said that, okay, every staking provider could develop their own Rust smart contract delegation and do whatever they want with the staking. And like nobody was building a contract. And then we saw, okay, let's bring down this barrier of entry, because it's like not only technical people want to be staking providers, or not all the staking providers have a Rust guy for them to write smart contract, audit, and everything. Then we implemented the delegation contract, in which we streamlined everything. So other protocols are against enshrining, that's the name they use, protocols, base protocols, but that's the way you make the protocol better. And then after that, with the latest updates, you see that you have everything around the staking provider directed to the wallet. So it's now, all those barriers are like broken down. Now the validator service needs to run on only his node and maybe keep up and educate the people who are delegating to him in some sort of communities. Then, so the barrier of entry gets lower. And because the barrier of entry gets lower, we can go to in a more decentralized state. And I would say that this is some of the important aspects of how we tackled some of the hard problems we do not see on the other chains tackling. And in terms of governance as well, so I don't know if it's correct, but we are one of those protocols which truly let the delegators to vote, not the staking providers instead of the delegators, as the delegators are part of the ecosystem as well. And all those with quadratic voting, like leveling the field here as well for what a vote means. So I'm pretty excited about what we build in this kind of direction. And any back and forth and feedback we have from the community, it's welcome, because we know in what kind of direction should we develop. But let's keep the education and the decentralization. It's work for everybody.
Maybe just add here, I just had a discussion earlier today with an old friend about democracy and what does it mean to have democracy. Does it mean that if we need to plant something here, do we ask everybody here, hey, what kind of tree do we plant here? Do we plant an orange tree? Do we plant a mango tree? Or do we plant some other kind of tree, an apple tree? Or anybody can have an opinion. How many of these opinions are rooted in research, and how many of these opinions are informed opinions? So democracy is valuable only when people that vote are aware of what are they voting. So if we have a voting system here on MultiversX, and we have a proposal that nobody is interested enough to check what it says, what it does, and it's a roll the dice, yes, no, abstain, then it's worthless. So I think it's our role as, like Robert was saying, as staking providers and as maybe older members in this community to keep informing the community, speaking their language, not speaking some geeky language that only we understand, about all these new things that are coming and how they influence them and encourage them to learn. You know, this is a world where technology is a real breakthrough, like Web3, blockchain. And people don't really understand Web3 or blockchain, don't understand the power of owning something for real. So it's really important for everybody, for not only the staking providers that I've seen so many raised hands here, but especially the staking providers, to enforce in our communities this, maybe this constant drive to learn, to understand, not just to do something and forget about, you know, understand all these concepts and get involved. So the Agora will be as important as we make it, as we as a community make it. It can be there, the team can post, hey, we have a new release. If only 2 or 3 or 5 people take the time to actually read that and go through it and say, maybe this could be done this way, or maybe this could be done the other way. I know it's really frustrating when you only hear complaints, but you don't hear new ways of doing things. It's easy to complain because it's free, but if you have a better suggestion, from past experience and from knowing these guys personally, they are more than happy to hear you out. So maybe my encouragement is to be bold and contact them on Telegram, on Twitter, or whatever, you know. I know Robert is very active on Twitter lately. His X vein has started to pop up, so we thank him for that. But I encourage everybody to be more present and to really try to grasp all these concepts and give your input. Even if it's, hey, I think it's okay, or hey, I think it's okay, but, you know, this is all very, very welcome feedback. So thank you.
I actually wanted to raise the theme of the governance, but Eddie, thank you. Because actually governance is the thing that we missed, and I'm happy that we added this functionality to the blockchain, to the ecosystem, because it is also the way to grow further, to develop further, and this like the other networks where we have like validators are the representatives of the community, and only validators have the vote, and they actually decide how the ecosystem will move forward. However, here I'm happy that everyone in the community has the voice, and they can vote as they see, as they want the community, the ecosystem to develop further. And I support here Eddie into the encouragement to participate in this, participate in governance. And of course, for staking providers, it is very important to educate and to elucidate people not only about the just basics of the crypto, just basics of the Web3, but also explain here we have the governance, we have here the development of the ecosystem we all live in. We have to explain and have to discuss with our community what's good, what's not that good, what could be better, and if we all take part into the our this MultiversX life, our ecosystem can flourish and it could succeed in the final. So I join the Eddie's words, and please participate in this if you see that you want to understand something. But of course, some proposals could be deep technical thing, and I'm not the technical guy. But we have at the team our dev teams, DevOps teams, who can explain this in plain words and give the insights what it's about. So you can decide it is good or it is not that good. And I suppose that MultiversX team can explain in plain words if you just ask this. Because if you see that something complicated, I don't want to touch this, no, we won't succeed. Because we are kind of here community and family, and we all want to flourish and have to reap the rewards of our contribution to the ecosystem. So, yeah. Happy to have this feature, and it is the thing that deserves the spotlight and engagement.
If I may, just wanted to add also on what you guys mentioned about documenting stuff, explaining stuff. I always notice that the most disagreements come from not speaking the same language. So people with different backgrounds understand a problem differently. And then it is reasonable to explain it in layman terms. But you cannot start with explaining in layman terms if you want to perfectly define the problem. But then you can go above it and give a high-level overview. You also have the technical description, so everyone who is technical can see, there is a problem here, I can notice that you haven't covered something, and then we can discuss on that. But then again, also the community has a chance to see, okay, what are the benefits, where am I impacted by these changes, and can have a view on what is changing and how it will affect them. So I perfectly agree, we need to have some documentation, we need to have more discussions also to simplify the concepts we're working on and explaining them so that we each understand the same thing, and then probably a lot of disagreement will disappear because we as well want the network to perform better. We want to have good solutions, good technical solutions that improve everything we've been working on.
Yeah, just one point here, very short. Maybe, like in the Explorer, you have, if there's a transaction that includes data, you have an option to change it to text or hexadecimal or decimal or smart. So maybe when there's a proposal with a lot of technical stuff, you have an option to make it smart. Make it like I'm a 9-year-old, so I understand it.
Yeah, awesome. Good, good improvement idea.
Short overview.
Definitely. Maybe when it comes to the governance part, I do believe that indeed having a very well-defined definition of the problem and a way of solving this helps first, because underneath there's a very technical protocol that needs to be addressed, and definitely then defining the problem in layman words such that everybody can understand and follow through. It's common sense. But more than that, when it comes to governance, I do believe that I think Sunny from Cosmos is here as well. I've highly appreciate their framework of doing governance ever since, and especially their duty, the way they have approached this, where the staking providers had the duties to, or at least their initiatives to translate this and talk to their delegators, right? At the end of the day, assuming that, for example, all staking providers will have provide the same APR, then how would you differentiate yourself between the other staking providers, or besides doing better services for them? Services such as educating them, keeping them up to date with what's the most important decision, healthiest decision for the protocol, and what they should follow and stay up to date. What are the changes that are involved? How they contribute to the network, and how can they align with the mission and the vision of the foundation, and then also with the staking providers which are following the protocol. So I do believe that this is like a broader, there should be another panel getting back to the staking phase 4. I think our time is up. I think maybe if there are 1 or 2 questions, I know the time is up, 1 or 2 questions, and then we wrap this up. I'm sure.
Yeah, there's hands.
Maybe if can anyone help with the mic or speak loud enough? Perfect. Let's do it. Definitely. Maybe if I can take this. This is like delegated proof of stake, but not only by delegation in terms of stake, but also delegation in terms of voting. Sure, with that in mind, there's definitely different approaches. I'm not sure if there is an ultimate final solution in the ecosystem which has been proven to be the supreme version that can conquer the world. We're still exploring. I was talking also yesterday night at the validator meetup explicitly regarding this, that Switzerland is more a very direct governance approach like this one, and then there are other approaches where you need to either be part directly yourself, or if you're not taking part of the governance, you should at least delegate your vote to someone that is taking part. And maybe even worse, to extend to that idea, you could even slash the guys that are ignorant enough, that are not taking into 5 succeeding approach or succeeding proposal, not taking part, to be slashed, and and the rewards should be distributed to the ones that are going and taking part of, right? So this is common sense, and we are very this is like the very first step towards that. I think where we are right now, and I think we'll take it step by step towards that. But definitely a way of seeing this. I'm not sure if it covered, if we should.
Technically speaking, it would be not so hard. It just some light went on in my head. Technically speaking, it was not hard, but we have to see the dynamics of the chain, and maybe the dynamics after a few votes on the governance we will see. And if there are some advocates like this, and you want like elected officials to have for some kinds of guys, we can make it happen. But let's see first the dynamics.
We invent the politicians on chain. Okay. Maybe if one last question and then we wrap. Thank you.
I think there.
Yeah, please. Sure.
Behind.
Yeah, it's already.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a validator in MultiversX network. What I need to ask is, okay, we are talking about staking V4, which will lead to, I don't know, top-up bonanza. A top-up bonanza which will lead to a decrease of the APR. What is the, not an emergency plan, a risk management if you have implemented, because of course if the APR will go under 5%, I guess it will not be competitive for stakers, and a staker provider, how can we educate them? And because the competition, it's drastically in this staking part in these moments.
Sure. Maybe
That's my question.
very, very short. If we remember the first sentence when defining the problem that we're facing with the current implementation, I don't think the APR is the problem. I think the distribution is the problem. Right now, there are staking providers or providers, node operators that are earning up to 2 or 3%, even more than the average ones, that are onboarding and hosting a lot more people on it. The question is, how do we make sure that we don't get to the 5%, and how do we make sure that the distribution is as fair as possible, and getting it to, I don't have the numbers right now, but I'm sure that there's a difference of up to 3, 4, 5% even so currently on chain. Adrian?
Yeah, also I want to mention, currently the current staking system is open for delegators, because they can delegate to any of the existing providers that have their pool opened to accepting delegation. So it's not a problem that we will have with staking phase 4. If there are eagle to be staked, they will be staked even now, because this is open. So as Lucian mentioned, it is a distribution problem for the validator nodes. And I think this will foster also, I would say, benefit competition between staking providers to provide good services, so they attract rather than with a better APR by profiting from some internal staking mechanisms, but rather by providing better services for them.
Yeah, I'll do invite. I'm wondering if Puset is here in the room. He's been doing some very great infographics around and statistics around the protocol implementation. I think he'll be able to post and come with a follow-up proposal on overview what it would mean if all the validators would share quite the same APR. And then that will be a discussion to be taken on the validator channel. Robert, please, and then.
I think we can easily resolve the thing when we onboard 1 billion of people. So everybody here, please write dApps, applications, onboard as much people as you know, then there will be enough fees to keep and pay for everybody else out there.
Yeah, and just one more thing. I think this is the perfect example for making the pie larger instead of getting ourselves a larger slice of the pie. So if we include more staking providers into the system that can come as Alina mentioned, with their own ecosystems, then our own ecosystem grows, it has more added value, and then the entire pie gets bigger. Even if we are left with a smaller slice of the pie, our slice of the pie will become bigger by the pie itself becoming bigger.
Let's make the pie bigger.
Exactly.
Let's go. Thank you, guys.